Hi everyone, my name is Kate Kalthoff and welcome to a Stamping to Share video. Today I'm going to share with you my very first creation that I created with the Occasions 2016 Stampin' Up! Catalog. And I used the stamp set called Birthday Blooms, and it is truly, I think, my favorite birthday set out of that entire catalog. I absolutely love the rose, and I'm just crazy about the paper. The paper that coordinates is called Birthday Bouquet, and you can see how gorgeous this is with all of these beautiful soft colors, and then of course the little banners and the ice cream cones and some confetti. And I just love these little banners here, so I had to use that on my card. And then of course you can even do some really nice masculine cards using this mossy meadow with the dots. I just love it. So anyway, the card I created was this one, and it's a birthday card for a friend. And I did watercolor it, so I'll show you how I did that. And then I want you not to give up when you start watercoloring, because it always seems like it's not turning out, but just be patient and just look at the differences. These are 3 different cards, all created with the exact same colors that I'm going to share with you today. So every one will have its own little signature, its own special look. So don't feel too frustrated if it doesn't turn out how you think it's supposed to turn out, because once you put it on your card, it will all look good. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is get a base card started. This is 5.5 by 8.5, and I've scored it at 4 1/4. And this is Mossy Meadow cardstock. And so I'm just going to fold towards the score line. Actually, I think I'm going to use my bone folder and give this a nice press. And then we are going to work on the inside panel. The inside panel of my card is Whisper White. It's 4 by 5 1/4. And then I took a 1/2 inch strip of the Designer Series paper and just glued it along to the bottom. And I used one of the sentiments, Happiest of Birthdays to You, from the Birthday Bloom stamp set. And we're just going to adhere this onto our card with a little bit of snail. So I can go ahead and just put a little snail at the top. And we'll set this right on the inside panel, centered in on our card. So it looks just like this, and the inside panel is done. And now let's go ahead and work on the outside panel. So we are going to have a base of Blushing Bride paper. This is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to take a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to glue this directly onto the front of our card. We are going to put this right here. And then the next layer is a 1.5 by 4 inch piece of Designer Series paper from Birthday Bouquet. And I did pick the wonderful little banners. And so again, I'm just going to use a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue, and we'll set this right here along the bottom edge of that Blushing Bride piece. And we can just wiggle that into place, and it's ready to go. The next panel is what we're going to do our stamping on. And this is Shimmery White. And it is cut a little bit oddly because I wanted a 3/16 inch border, but if you'll bear with me, it is 3 5/16 by 3 9/16. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do our stamping on this panel, and I'm going to show you all the ink colors at once that we'll be using today. So we have Stays On that we're going to be used for the stamping, and then all of the colors that we're watercoloring with. So we'll be watercoloring with So Saffron and Rose Red and Blushing Bride, and also Mossy Meadow. So those are the 4 classic ink colors that we'll be using along with our Stays On. And we're going to take the stamp, this large rose stamp, and I put it so that the bottom of the rose is parallel to the bottom of the block. And this is the block E. It's one of our clear blocks. This is a Clearmount set, so we can kind of see through the blocks that way to help us know right where we're stamping. So I'm just going to ink this rose up with the Stays On ink, and I'm going to go ahead and just stamp this keeping that rose pretty parallel with our paper, with the bottom edge of our paper. And the reason I did that is so that I can take my sentiment, the dear friend sentiment, and I can just stamp this down here. Because when you put the rose parallel, there's just a really nice spot for that dear friend to go. And it also leaves a nice spot up here. Let me show you again the main card that we're creating. You'll notice there's a little bit of designer series paper up here in the corner. So that's why I like the rose parallel, because I can put my sentiment here and a little accent up here. So now when it comes to coloring, we are going to use an aqua pen. This is what it looks like. It's from Stampin' Up, an aqua painter, and you put water into the barrel of the pen. You just open it up and you run a little bit of water in there, and that gives you a little water while you're working with it. You'll also want to have a piece of scrap paper on hand so you don't end up with anything too watery. Notice I just took a bunch of water off, and then I'm going to start with the very center of the rose. This is So Saffron. And I've gone ahead, and you can just squeeze this together. That way you'll put some ink onto the lid here. And then we can just take that So Saffron and we'll just color in this area right here where the center of our flower is. And you'll notice I'm not being too particular. I just want this all nice and yellow right through here. And then that's done. So then I just go ahead and I wipe off the excess of that color, and I'll go ahead and start with the next color. The next color that I'm going to do is Rose Red, and I'm just going to pick some of the ink up, and I can just go ahead and wherever there's some, see how there's these little hash marks or little darker marks, that's where the flower usually is going to look the darkest. And then wherever there's a leaf that's turned over, I'm going to go ahead and put some darker color on that turned over leaf, or I should say turned over petal. Here's another spot where the petal is turned over. And then again, I would want to do that up through this area, anywhere where I see some marks where we might have some darker color. And you can see how that's going. And I don't want to color this whole flower. I'm just going to stop here because I have another one that's colored, but I did want to show you the process. The next color that we're going to use is Blushing Bride. And again, I'm just going to pull some of the color off the lid of the stamp pad, and then we just go ahead and we add our Blushing Bride in here. And I don't need to be real particular about how this goes on. That's one of the things I love about watercolor. And you can see we'll just pull this in right like this. And if you feel you want it to be a little bit more red, just go back in with your Rose Red and just add a little bit more color to this. And you can see how that just darkens it up a little bit. But it's up to you. And again, don't prejudge, because just looking at this now, you're thinking, well, okay, you know, that doesn't really look that great. But I promise that it will once it's all done. So then the last color that we're going to put on is our Mossy Meadow, and that's what we'll use on our leaves. So you can just go ahead and you can see how easy it is to do this. I love watercolor pens, and I also love the fact that they work so nicely with shimmery white paper. The paper doesn't pill, and it has good durability. It doesn't really curl up. You can use quite a bit of water on it. And again, we can just go ahead and just keep adding our green. And you don't have to be real particular about whether or not you stay in the lines. After all, it is a watercolor. So it's okay if you go out of the lines. So again, this is what it looks like. And again, you might be thinking, well, it doesn't look so great. But I promise that once you hold it up to your card, it'll look fantastic. So here's one that I did in advance. And it also looks a little different as it dries. As it dries, it gets, I don't know, it just Some of the colors will lighten up and some of the colors stay a little darker, but it just looks so much prettier once it's dried. And so this is one that I did in advance. And I'm going to put this layer over my Mossy Meadow panel, which is 3.5 by 3 3/4. So I'm just going to flip this over. I'm going to use a little bit of snail on the back, and we'll just center this in so that all 4 sides are nice and even. And then we want to add just a little accent up here. So I have the confetti paper, and then I have my 1-inch circle punch from Stampin' Up, and I just want about a half circle punched out. So I just reach in, make sure this fits real nice up here, and it does. That looks pretty. So we can go ahead and add a little bit of snail to the back of it, and we'll just set this right in. And there, that's the perfect accent for this card. And now we can go ahead and put it onto the front of our card. So it'll fit in right here. And just to add a little bit more of a feminine touch to it, because this is a very feminine card, we can just take our scissors and cut off a little bit of tea lace doily, just a touch, and we can add this to the back of our card for a nice accent. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'll use a little bit of Scotch tape to secure this. And then we'll add some dimensionals. As you can see, I've added 5 dimensionals, and now we can just pop this onto the front of our card. Just center this image panel right in here with the Blushing Bride and set it down. And it's gorgeous. It's complete and it's gorgeous. And here's the inside and the outside. And here is the card that I started with. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It's been a lot of fun for me to teach you this technique with watercoloring on shimmery white paper. Have a great day. If you need a demonstrator, please stop by my blog at www.stampingtoshare.com. I have a spot there where you can sign up for my weekly newsletters, and then also places where you can click and place orders with me. Have a great day. Bye-bye.